Good morning, folks, and welcome to a Genetic Stakeholders session of the ASI Convention. Ron Lewis and I are so pleased to have you with us this morning, and we trust that we've got a large audience scattered throughout the United States on our meeting this morning, and we are particularly excited to introduce to you our topic for today, which is a new genetic structure that we've been working on over the past year to represent the United States sheep industry on a genetic basis. For several years, there's been interest in creating a structure that could represent all of the breeds of sheep, all of the different types of sheep on a genetic basis that we have here in the United States, and help advance this whole process in order to achieve more productivity, more profitability from our animals. So about a year ago, to give you a little background on this whole process, we met in Scottsdale with ASI leadership, and at that time they thought this was a very worthwhile project, and they asked 5 individuals to be part of this formation committee to put together a potential structure. And they asked Ben Lafelt, Brad Boner, Bill Schultz, Rusty Burgett, and myself to move forward with putting together a structure that could accomplish what we really need in our sheep industry. And so we met and started working on what we would now present to you today as Sheep Genetics USA. In the past few years, there's been great change take place. Of course, changes on all fronts, but particularly there's been a significant amount of change in the sheep industry that we think open a whole set of doors for us to really make a new push in terms of advancing our production, our profitability, and all the things that we do in the sheep industry by having a genetic structure that we can now work on and control. Many parts of our sheep production system are sort of out of our control. Things like predators, public lands, bighorn sheep, and all of the other issues that we fight from day to day require defensive actions, and certainly those are valid and certainly they're important. But genetics are one of the areas that we can control. They're one of the things that are within our ability to manage and provide leadership in. And so that's the whole purpose of Sheep Genetics USA. As we look at these changes that have taken place, just think, who would have a year ago thought that I would be making this presentation, and all of us would, from our living rooms, and that you would be watching us from your homes rather than all of us being together in Denver. Change is apparently going to be with us as we move forward, and we see multiple other fronts of change that are available for us in the sheep industry. One of those changes is that we have a whole new breakthrough of genetic advancement that has taken place in recent years. And these have happened very, very quickly, and they've opened a lot of doors for us to make major change in the way we produce sheep, in the way that we manage our animals, and the use of technology to help us go from where we have been in the past to the future. So we see Sheep Genetics USA as being a bridge to take us from the past to today, to where we can start these changes, and on into the future, where we can really make a paradigm shift in the way we manage our animals. We're also blessed with another change in our industry that we think is particularly exciting. Right now we have a nice, solid group of really good researchers, research scientists that are interested in helping on this front, that have a vested interest in the sheep industry in terms of, again, helping us move and start to utilize and also existing technology and existing science that's been dealt with on the genetic front, but more important, to advance that by new projects to march us forward into the future. We had some of these folks involved in the Mickle project, and as you probably well know, the Mickle project is now complete, and it was just a very small example of what can happen as we look across the breadth and the width of the industry and the multiple projects that could come out of that. And so that small project could lead to great things as we go forward, utilizing the expertise of these research scientists. In addition to those scientists, we also have a nice, solid group of university extension people who are now, again, really passionate about the sheep industry and about getting the educational things out there that are available and that we can create going forward for producers, and that they can translate the science into user-friendly technology, user-friendly education, and production techniques that can really help us become more and more efficient and more effective in the way we produce. And then the third area that we think is so valuable for us right now is we've got this whole area that is now open for us to advance on multiple fronts with ARS, the Agriculture Research Service, on a multiple fronts of other sources where we can gather funds and go forward with these projects that we need to create, projects that will assist every producer in this country as we go forward in the future years. So we see this as being a bridge from where we've been to where we are and to advance us into the future. And some of these topics, genomics, all of the new things that are out there on the genetic front are really an opportunity for us to really help make some things happen. As we take a look at today's presentation, we're going to have a panel here of folks who have pre-recorded their presentations, hopefully covering the areas that you will find of interest. We'll take a period of time for this to happen, and then we want to have an open question session where we can take questions from you folks and hopefully answer in the time we've got allotted to us those questions that are out there. But again, how pleased we are to have this opportunity to make this presentation to you. And we are totally excited about this. We think it holds great opportunity for the future. And so without further comment, I'll now turn over to the panel to make their individual presentations, and then we'll go forward with the question session. Thank you, folks. So folks, why would we create Sheep Genetics USA? Why would you want to join Sheep Genetics USA? Perhaps a little background story. When I was a kid back in the 50s and 60s, one of the things I used to enjoy was traveling with my grandfather as we would move the camp from place to place as the migratory sheep operation moved the sheep from place to place. And still fixed in my mind are some of the locations where we had those camps set. We would often set them by places where there were springs of water, or we would move them to high spots where you'd have the herder would have the best view of the most area where they could kind of keep an eye on the sheep. And one of those spots has kind of been fixed in my mind as being a place where we took the camp up back in the 1960s. Only we never went back and moved it. It's still there. Genetically speaking, we're still camped on that plateau from back in the 1960s. While there have been some great things happen on an individual basis through group efforts such as NSIP, Let's Grow, and others, we've not had an organized, unique structure such as Sheep Genetics USA to take genetic research, create genetic research, and take existing genetic research and make it usable for producers. Move it forward in a way that will advance the sheep industry to new levels. As I think back to those days, I think what a grand opportunity others have had to advance other species, what the crop people have done to advance crop research and genetics over the years. Well, now we have that same opportunity to take a quantum leap in productivity, in profitability, and in production. And so as I see this going forward, I see some tremendous opportunities. Why would you want to join? Well, if you're comfortable being back on that plateau with that view that's been there since the 60s, then this organization isn't for you. You don't want to join this. This will drive you nuts, folks, because all you're going to want to do is lay awake at nights and ask questions like, what could be? What if? Or why not? If, on the other hand, you're someone who believes that average is the enemy of excellence, if you're thinking that mediocre is no longer good enough, if you're tired of being a Joe average, here is our opportunity to take and make a paradigm shift in the industry. Here is the opportunity that we can, through this structure, drive up from those action committees, or what I call those great action teams, new ideas for research, new ideas to apply technology that we have both in the genetic field and from the management field to change the way we do things. We've got these great opportunities to utilize a tremendous set of research scientists across the nation and these tremendous young educational extension people that are out there waiting and chewing at the bit to get this kind of information out, to get this industry moving forward in a way that we've never had before. We are on the edge of something great, folks. And so as we look at this structure, it was created from a grassroots level to drive it up. The ideas for research, to create this research, or take existing research and technology and innovate that and make it usable for producers. We believe that we've brought the entire industry together, beginning at genetics, coming through the producers, the feeders, packers, and on into the consumers. And by unifying the industry into one great opportunity for growth and to drive this all forward, we've got wonderful opportunities as we go forward. How great it is to be part of the industry today. All of the technology that's available to us, all of the opportunities, the recent leaps that have taken place in genetic research, they're all there for us to take advantage of now. How excited we are as a team to present this structure to you. How excited we are for the future. So folks, fasten your seatbelts. If you're excited about the future of the sheep industry, then we invite you to come and be part of this great future. So as soon as we're done with this, email us, call us, in some way contact us and tell us you want to be part of these teams, because we have an amazing future.
Thank you to genetic stakeholders for allowing us to speak today on Sheep Genetics USA. My name is Ben Lefelt, and I'll be talking about some of the structure that we've proposed under Sheep Genetics USA. This is really built upon the successes that we've had in NSIP and the Let's Grow program over the past few years. We are very appreciative of our NSIP leaders of the past and Rusty Burgett for setting up the base that allows us to propel into this new opportunity in terms of genetics and genomics. Our industry and Sheep Genetics USA is really built upon linkages, and those linkages are built upon the communication of our industry segments. As we look at these industry segments, what makes up the important components of that communication is really the people. So as I break down the structure, as we look at these linkages, it really all comes back to the people and the communication of our industry. The first thing that I'm going to talk about today is probably the most important component of our Sheep Genetics USA structure, and that's our grassroots committees. They're made up of 6 individual groups within the industry. Those are ALB Consumer, NSIP, Research, Educator, and Emerging Technologies, which is made up of our academia, our MARC individuals, our ARS individuals, our sheep extension specialists. Then we have our breed groups and our registries. We also have the ASI Producer Committee, and finally the Feeder and Packer Committee. These 6 committees are voluntary committees picked by an individual member during the beginning of the year. So each individual member will have the opportunity to choose which committee they feel they can add the most value to. And then for that year, that will be the committee that they serve on and where those ideas come from on an individual level. Within that committee, the board of directors will appoint an action lead that will lead and design the format for those committee meetings, as well as how the process for developing those ideas come from each committee. These are a very important part. So we have action committees, which the action is an important part of the name, and then we have the action leads that really develop those ideas and organize those ideas from each of these individual committees. The action leads are chosen from within the member committees and appointed by the board of directors. These are really the cog of the entire sheep genetics process. They design and organize their individual committees in order to facilitate the generation of these ideas, and then take those ideas, prioritize them within their committee, and then meet with the other 5 action leads in order to develop programs and plans around those ideas. They prioritize those ideas, they do some initial analysis of what it might take to run a project for those ideas, and then they take those priorities and meet with the board of directors. The board of directors, in combination with the action leads, will organize those ideas and build upon the process as to which individual ideas need backing, both financially. Are these projects long-term, short-term? How much benefit do they give to the industry? Are these individual projects focused on a specific part of the industry? Can that specific project be put forth to the entire industry in a different way that allows it to be more powerful as a project? What backing may be available in terms of financials as we move forward with the project? All these things go into the decision-making process of how we prioritize those individual grassroots ideas and bring them to research priorities. We don't necessarily just look at ideas that run up the chain of Sheep Genetics USA, but we'll also look at ideas that are already going on in our research community. The board of directors is elected by a nomination process of the individual grassroots committees. Each year, one board of directors seat will be up for a nomination from all of the grassroots committees. Each committee will put forth a nomination, and then the board of directors will elect a new board of director from those nominations. The board of director will serve a 5-year term and then no more than 2 5-year consecutive terms. This is put in as a way of keeping some continuity within the whole system of Sheep Genetics USA. Over the years, it's been an important component that I think we've been lacking somewhat, of having continuity and a long-term process for developing new research projects. So as we look at this, we're not only defining ways to improve things, but really setting up a framework that will allow us to work into the future and develop many, many new ideas. It's important that we understand that these projects don't really end when we develop a priority and we ship a project off. It's important that the grassroots committees that have a feedback mechanism that understand their part of each of these priorities within the research projects that are developed and hopefully backed through Sheep Genetics USA. As we work better as a team across all segments and all research priorities, I think we have the opportunity to really develop an important component of our industry, genetics and genomics. We think this will drive more research, better research, and more equipped research financially to really give an opportunity to the sheep industry as a whole. We hope you'll embrace this. We hope this is the right plan for the industry, and we need to move forward in terms of genetics and genomics in the sheep industry. Thank you, and I appreciate your time.
So now that we've talked through the overall organizational structure of Sheep Genetics USA, we wanted to take a minute to explain how we got to the point that we're at today. Because that planning process that we went through can really help to explain how the structure that we developed will help us to serve our overall mission. So many of you know that the official planning process started about this time last year at the ASI convention. So there at that convention, we were able to organize a meeting with some of the leadership of the American Sheep Industry Association, the American Lamb Board, as well as our researchers through our USDA ARS research stations and our land-grant universities, and other industry professionals to discuss the overall concept of a collaborative approach to advancing the U.S. sheep industry through genetics. So from that meeting, we were able to start our official planning process for Sheep Genetics USA. And we really started with an information gathering stage. So we planned out several meetings, several visits, starting with our researchers at our federal research facilities. So those at the Meat Animal Research Center in Clay Center, Nebraska, the U.S. Sheep Experiment Station in DuBois, Idaho, and the Dale Bumper Small Farm Research Center in Boonville, Arkansas, as well as our various research and extension personnel at our land-grant universities. From those conversations, we were able to make sure that as we move forward, we were going to be constructing a framework that was going to help empower them and strengthen their existing research programs to help us to move collaboratively together as an industry as a whole. So aside from visiting with those research personnel and extension personnel, we also wanted to expand our horizons a little bit, and we decided to talk to some producers and some leadership that's been involved with the Beef Improvement Federation. So the Beef Improvement Federation is a collaborative approach to advance the beef industry through genetic technologies. We wanted to learn from some of the strengths that they've developed over the previous years, as well as also avoid any potential pitfalls that they've run into so we can avoid making some of the same mistakes. And then we would figure out how we can adapt that information to what we're trying to do here in the U.S. sheep industry. And then one of the key groups we wanted to talk to was various producers. So we spoke with dozens of producers across all the different industry segments and across several different geographic regions so that we make sure that we are assembling an effort in a manner that's going to be the most efficient way to move our industry forward in a cohesive manner. So with all that background information that we gathered, we began the lengthy, complicated process of organizing the structure of our group. It was lengthy and a little bit complicated because we all know that 2020 presented us with some unique challenges. So with that, we did a lot of this effort over dozens of web conference calls. We had hundreds of individual phone calls. We were fortunate enough to be able to get 2 in-person meetings to help to seal up some of the details. So as we went through this entire planning process, though, we wanted to make sure that we kept a few key core values forefront in the development process to make sure we're going to be sticking to our core goals of moving the sheep industry forward. So one of those key values was that this has to be an industry-wide initiative so that all segments of our production system have representation in this effort, and that all the outcomes that are developed out of this organization are for the betterment of our industry as a whole. So if something comes out of this group that benefits one segment, but it's at the detriment of another segment, that's not serving our core value. We need to work industry-wide to move our industry forward as an entire group. One of our other key values that we kept forefront in our planning process was that collaboration was going to be the key to success. Through collaboration, we can unify our industry through research, technology, and information exchange. And that would be an efficient and effective way to move our industry forward. We quickly came to the realization that our industry is greater than the sum of our individual parts. So working cooperatively across these various industry segments across geographic regions, across production systems will help us to all move forward together. And then lastly, our last core value is that this has to be a grassroots effort. And so all of the actions, all the deliverables, the ideas, the information flow, it all starts at the membership and committee level. Okay, so this is producer driven for the industry, by the industry. We definitely didn't want to have a top-heavy leadership strategy. We wanted to keep that grassroots effort with membership involvement being critical to the success of the group and to our industry. And that everyone needs to have an equal voice in the discussion and the opportunity to contribute to the solutions and the outcomes. So keeping those core points, those core values in mind, through the various web calls we had, we were able to meet up in person in Glen Rock, Wyoming in July to shape an initial draft structure for this organization. So in that in-person meeting, we were on the phone several times with a lot of our key industry stakeholder groups, making sure that we were seeking their input as we formed this draft structure. Following that meeting, we launched a feedback and comment period campaign where we presented that draft structure to key industry stakeholder groups. Several producers were involved in those groups, so that they could see what we had come up with as a first draft, offer any feedback, offer any criticisms, any potential pitfalls that they might see, and then we can take that information, take that feedback, and refine our overall strategies. So again, we presented that to dozens different stakeholder groups throughout the industry, representing all of our various segments. We took all that feedback, and we were able to meet up a second time here this fall in Kansas City, Missouri, to incorporate all that feedback and to present the finalized structure that you all see here today. We were also able to draft up a set of bylaws to formalize the structure and functionality of the organization. So through that entire process, I hope those key values and all the background work is reflected in the presentations that you've seen here today. While there's 5 of us that have formally been presenting this to you here today, there's been dozens of industry stakeholder groups, industry professionals, researchers that have helped to shape this organization into the form that you see here in this presentation. We've tried to incorporate all the feedback that we've gotten from everyone that's seen this so far to form a system that can be an asset for generations to come within our industry. And keeping those core values in mind, we make sure that everyone throughout our industry can have a voice in developing the solutions in helping to form a more solid genetic foundation in the U.S. sheep industry. And by using collaborative research, education, and implementation, we can be an asset for our industry and move together as a whole. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Brad Boner, and I'd like to say it's been a real honor for me to serve on this steering committee that has saw this idea come from thoughts from in everyone's mind into a organization that I think we can all be proud of, and has a lot of opportunity to help the sheep industry going forward. I've been tasked today to talk about the importance of active membership and the industry segment involvement in all the aspects we will have going forward in proposal development. So I'd just like to touch on that real quick for a minute. For those of you that have had the chance to review our bylaws, I think it should be rather apparent that this is a grassroots organization. We have made every effort we could to make sure that this organization ideas flowed from the bottom up, not the top down. And I think our structure and our organizational charts will bear that out. So the success of this going forward, of this concept going forward, will be highly dependent on active membership and people that have a passion for improving our sheep genetics in the U.S. Being involved in this group and helping us to direct our research projects and actually make progress where progress has been unduly limited in the past, in my estimation. And I think we have a real chance to define our direction in research with this group and have a lot of power as the industry has come together and says this is what we want and need in the sheep industry. And I think that will absolutely benefit us in our ability to secure funding from USDA and others for research projects that are meaningful and really help move the sheep industry forward and help us catch up with the other proteins in the U.S. such as pork, chicken, and beef, where we lag behind genetically. So I think these are all real important. Membership in this organization will probably be, people that are very passionate about changing the sheep genetics in the U.S. We believe that those ideas and vetting those ideas as they come forward as a group and as an industry can be very powerful in securing our funding, as I said. And so we have one industry voice moving forward, and instead of the way it's been in the past, we're kind of all over the place in our research projects, sometimes driven more by research requirements than it is for the need of the industry, what's best for the industry. So I think these are big things that can really move us forward going forward. Real quick, how do I become a member? So, once we've jumped through these hurdles that we're going to jump through here in the next couple of weeks and become a full-fledged organization with funding and everything, we will put out membership applications. At this time, there'll be no membership fee. All you'll be asked to do is fill out the membership application. You will then identify on that application which one of the 6 committees that you see in our organizational chart you want to serve under. You can serve under one committee and one only. And from those committees, we will pick our action leads, and then those action leads will obviously be very important in driving the information we get out of the members of each of those committees. So I would ask you all to look for our membership applications in your sheep publications or on ASI's website, on the Land Board's website, we hope, and some other places, and sign up so we can get your ideas and really start to move our sheep genetics forward. I believe that's all I have. If you all have any questions or comments or concerns, please reach out to one of us on the steering committee, and we would be happy to answer those for you. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Bill Schultz, a black-faced terminal sire producer from Ohio. And as Tom previously stated, we'd like to welcome everyone to the Genetic Stakeholders Committee meeting. I think we all recognize that the U.S. sheep industry is relatively small, especially compared to U.S. livestock sectors such as beef cattle, swine, and other sheep-producing countries such as New Zealand and Australia. But at the same time, many of our technical needs for genetics are very similar, where resources that are needed to support those industries vary drastically. That raises a large question in my mind. How do we compete when our available resources are so unequal? In fact, it is the very question that got me involved with Sheep Genetics USA. To me, the answer lies in that we must become more efficient with the limited resources that we do have. And we must use collaboration and a unified coordination between all of our stakeholders. I liken it to our current situation of pounding a spike with a wooden mallet, when we should be driving that spike with precision and a concentrated force of a railroad spike sledge. Over the past few months, I have been involved with a producer group focused on how to incorporate genomic information into making better breeding decisions at the farm. What I really learned being involved with this group is that incorporating genomic information is a huge and expensive task, which will require all the resources that our industry can muster. It is exactly the type of task that a group such as Sheep Genetics USA is meant to tackle. If we are to succeed in making genomic information useful to our industry, we first must ask our feedstock sector, our lamb producers, our feeders, and our packers to record and submit huge amounts of quantitative data. We then must ask an organization such as NSIP to collect, to organize, and to analyze that data and put it in an understandable format. Thirdly, we must ask our scientific community to find ways to combine the quantitative data from our farms and ranches with the genomic information discovered in their labs. And finally, we must ask our educators to help deliver all this information back to our farms and ranches in an understandable form for decision making. Granted, a daunting task. And for us all to be successful in making this happen, we must coordinate and we must collaborate with all of our stakeholders. It is the reason that I feel that Sheep Genetics USA can be successful, in fact, must be successful if we're going to accomplish the type of genetic improvement that our sheep industry both demands and deserves. Thanks again for everyone for joining us today, and we're glad that you were with us.
Well, thanks again, folks, for being part of this presentation today. We recognize this is new. We've covered a lot of ground here with you today. I'm sure there are additional questions that didn't get asked. Please send those forward to one of us. We'd love to answer them. We also have a PowerPoint presentation that's now available to go forward. If you'd like to make it in your local state or other regional organizations. We are just excited about this. We think it holds great promise for the future. And so we're just excited to share this with the world now going forward. Special thanks to Ron Lewis for his help throughout the whole process, but particularly today for his accepting the questions and helping field those for us. Second, thanks to the team. What an incredible experience it's been for me to work with Brad Boner, Ben LaFelt, Bill Schultz, and Rusty Burgett. One of the great experiences of my life to work with these guys in putting this together. They've been passionate, they've been sharp on all the points, and so the things that we've put together we think have been well thought through, and we're just pleased to present them to you now going forward, and trust that this will be a great opportunity for the sheep industry in the United States to advance.